Hi there, I'm Noreen from Creative Memories, and I am so happy to be with you on this episode of Technique Tasters brought to you by Creative Scrapbooker magazine to share with you some of the details of how to make this fun layout using Creative Memories' Berry Harvest collection. Now, this layout is featured in the fall issue of Creative Scrapbooker magazine, and I just want to share a few ideas about how you can create this sort of feature border using the Berry Harvest papers, some of the coordinating stickers, the cute little mat cards, and the star of the collection, the new mason jar Build-A-Punch, which I've used to create these 3 little mason jars, which really take this border to the next level. So let's take a look at how to create the border and assemble the layout. So first up, let's make those fun little mason jars. So with the Build-A-Punch, just unlock the mechanism so that you can actually do some punching. And I'm just going to punch 3 mason jars from some beige solid cardstock. So you can see that all 3 of the pieces that you need to make the mason jar are in the same punch. And I'm just actually going to use the 3 jars themselves. And I'll save these for another little use, or you could just recycle them because they are pretty small. And then I'm going to punch the little label and the jar topper from some of these scraps of the paper. And I love that I can use scraps to really kind of create a custom look. So I'm just feeding this little scrap, it's about an inch wide, just into the first part of the punch so that I can punch out the topper and the label. So I would like that little blue color. I'm going to do some with the blueberries as well. And by holding the punch like this, you can kind of see where you're punching. So I want some of the blue and I want some of the green. So let's punch right about there. There we go. And then I definitely want some of this red that you can see here. So I want some red for the topper. Again, let's get a little bit of that green in there. And then you can see on here how I want to use the yellow side. So I'm just going to flip this over so I can make sure that I get some yellow in my little label. So again, I love that I can use little scraps here to get exactly the colors that I want. So now I have my 3 little mason jars and their little toppers and labels. Now, this next step is going to be old hat for a lot of you that have enjoyed using inks and mixed media in your scrapbook pages for a long time. Creative Memories traditionally has not been known for its use of inks, but due to some feedback that we asked our advisors and customers, we are going to be bringing out some of the Sukaneko Memento inks in the dewdrop size that coordinate with our collections. And we're also going to have, the rich cocoa, some of the basic neutrals that you can use to distress and add some texture and edging to your projects. So again, not new for a lot of you, but I know that our Creative Memories advisors and customers are excited to have this added to our line in the coming fall. And we're going to be also adding some other accessories for that. So we're very excited about that. But so for now, I'm just going to take the Dewdrop Rich Cocoa ink pad, and I'm just going to use it to kind of highlight the edges. Again, really simple way to just make those little mason jars stand out from the background. It just gives a nice little edge to these shapes. And of course, you can do this with your punched shapes, your borders, and anything else that you want to highlight. I've also used it on the photos and the mat cards that I have on this layout. So super simple to just add that little bit of detail to the edge. And now I'm just going to go ahead and assemble my little mason jars by adding the toppers. Oh, and you could definitely ink the toppers and the labels as well. Again, just to give it a little bit of definition and help it stand out. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble all of my little, I'm going to mix and match here, but I'm going to assemble all of my little mason jars with their toppers, and then we'll be ready to start the border. So I finished my 3 little mason jars. I think they're very, very cute, and I'm going to put these aside so that I can work on the base of the border. Now I've chosen this sort of tone on tone strawberries and flowers paper, and I'm going to cut a 3 1/4 inch strip from that paper using my 12-inch trimmer. And this is going to be the base for our border. And again, you can see that I've gone ahead and inked the edges, but the reason that I've cut it at 3 1/4 is so that I can use the fun little mason jar mat card. Now this was a large size mat card that I've just gone ahead and cut in half. And again, that works out to 3 1/4 inches. So our mat cards typically run 6.5 by 4.5. And that way, when you add a photo to one of them, you get a great ready to go mat. So by cutting it in half at 3 1/4, I've got that fun little detail. And you can see there's another mat card here with another mason jar on it. And again, we have full size and half size. So there's lots of great options there for you to use in conjunction with the Berry Harvest papers. So I'm going to go ahead and add my little mat card about 3 inches up from the edge, the bottom edge of my border here. And then I'm going to be adding some paper strips and other details. I've got some stickers on here, plus of course our fun little mason jars up at the top to really enhance this border. So first of all, I'm going to take one of the scalloped stickers, scallop border stickers, and I'm just going to apply that across the top and bottom edges of my border. And I can just flip it over and give it a little trim. I've got a little piece of paper there that needs to be trimmed off as well. So there it is at the top, and let's go ahead and add it along the bottom of our border as well. Do the same thing, just trim off the excess. I'm using my little microtip scissors, which I love for this kind of work because they're so super sharp. Then I've got a nice little piece that I can still use, so I'm just going to add that back onto the carrier sheet. And then I'm going to do a couple of other things here. I've got some of the same paper that I used for the accents on the mason jars. And I'm going to add those above and below the border. These are 1 inch wide and same width, 3 1/4 inch wide. So it's just going to fit nicely here beneath our mat card. Okay, so I've got a couple below, and I'm going to also put one right above my little mason jar mat card. And then I can go ahead and add some more stickers. So let's add some of the strawberry and blueberry. Are there raspberries on there too? I think there are. And I'm just going to place those onto the yellow and white strips. So I'm just going to kind of overlap a little bit of the edges so that I don't get a finished edge and then have to cut off one of the sticker edges. There we go. And cut off on this side as well. And then I'll go ahead and add some more of the berry stickers across this yellow strip. So I love using border stickers for more than just borders. I love how they can really just enhance some of the details that you're working with. So again, another piece here I can just add back onto the carrier sheet and use for another time. And then finally, I'm going to also use this fun little, I guess it looks like the twine that you would use to attach your jar topper to a mason jar if you were really doing your canning. So I'm just going to add a little piece above my yellow and white stripe, and another piece down here below my other paper strips. And I'm not too worried if, you know, the edges aren't super straight right now, because I can run them through my trimmer afterwards to tidy it all up. And then I'm just going to place that little bow right in the center across the top here. So I've used just 3 sticker borders, and I've got some extras that I can use in another project. But isn't that looking fun? It looks like it's so much detail, and it's really come together super easily. All right, so I already put a foam square on the back of this mason jar. So I'm going to put that right underneath the bow. And then I can just add these other 2 little mason jars off to the side. And I'm just using regular or repositionable adhesive to do that. So, and there we go. It's pretty much done. When I add it to my layout, I'm going to use the other yellow border sticker down the side, and then that will just kind of complete it along with a few extra stickers. So let's go ahead and make up the base page. I'm using the kind of pale blue, light blue dots for my base page. I'm just going to add a dash of adhesive there and center it on my 13 by 13 inch cutting mat, which I love to use when I'm scrapbooking, because I love having the ability to make sure that, you know, any papers, any strips, that kind of thing, or any photos that I'm putting down, I can use the measurements that are showing around the outside edge of my base page to make sure everything's nice and even. So I've got a 1/2 inch strip of that same yellow paper we used, and we're just going to add that to the top and bottom. I think I cut this in the opposite direction from the piece I used here, but you get the idea. So we're just going to add a little bit of that same paper along the top and bottom, and I just got 1/4 of an inch of the blue solid cardstock, and that's just going to kind of frame this up nicely. And because I've got some blue stickers that I want to use with the blueberries, that's going to tie it all together. So just a little 1/2 inch strip and a little 1/4 inch strip, and that really finishes off the top and bottom of the base page beautifully. So there's my base page all ready, and I'm going to place the border about 1 inch in from the edge of my base page. I'm going to use some regular tape runner adhesive to make sure that this sticks on really well. So here I'm making sure the top is at 1 and the bottom is at 1, and then I know that it's nice and straight on my layout, because sometimes my eye fools me and I think it's straight, but then I notice that it's not. So using those measurements really helps me make sure that all of the elements of my page are straight. So again, now I can take that second border strip, and that actually is a nice way to just tidy up the edge there as well. I can just kind of overlap any of the paper strips that are slightly hanging off the edge of the border. So there we go. And then I've got this nice field here ready for my photos. So I'm going to bring back in my mats, and I've chosen the 2 gingham, red gingham mats for this. And you'll notice that one has some text on it, but again, as soon as I adhere my photo on top, it doesn't matter because you won't see them. So all of our mat cards are sized for regular 4x6 photos, and of course you can trim them down as needed. And again, don't forget, I know that it's second nature for many of you, but you can certainly use your little memento dewdrop to also enhance the edges of your mats and your photos, because one of the reasons we picked the Tsukineko Memento inks is that they're photo safe and archival. So we know that that's really important to a lot of our Creative Memories customers. So I won't mat these, but you get the idea. I'm going to mat my 2 photos, place them in there. And again, I love having the measurements on the top and the bottom so that I can make sure my photos and everything that I'm placing onto my base page are nice and even and straight. And then all I need to do is a little bit of journaling. I chose to use my brown dual tip pen for my journaling, and then some fun accent stickers. Again, these really stand out, so I don't need to add anything there, but I can add the title. Everything is better in a mason jar, and that just kind of can overlap my photo there. And then I can also add a little cluster down here. And I thought that the Homemade with Love would be just the thing to finish off my journaling and talk about how I love making jam from the berries and the limited amount of produce that I get from my city garden. I've got one little more accent down here just to kind of make that visual triangle, and it really carries your eye through the entire page and makes sure that the viewer sees all of the fun aspects of your layout. So I hope you get a chance to use the Berry Harvest collection from Creative Memories and create your own fun border with the Mason Jar Build-A-Punch. Thanks very much for joining me on this episode of Technique Tasters, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye for now.